It seems to be always the way. You're not looking to spend much money on a day game hunting, and then something like this happens. What is a boy to do?
Game pickups! Building the game room! Road trips! Live game hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to another episode. And this week we are again on the road game hunting. And this is the thing with game hunting, we want to make the most of our money. So this week we are heading to Kings Lynn, and we're going to hit up as many towns as we can along the way to save on petrol costs. And the problem is at the minute I haven't got the biggest budget. That's because I've made two very big purchases recently, which you have seen if you've been watching the channel. Firstly, the PlayStation 5, and secondly, that massive Amiga and Atari collection. So I'm mainly looking for things we can try and flip, and hoping we don't see anything I need too badly for the collection. Before we hit the road, I just want to remind you folks, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, hit the road. The first stop on our road trip this time is the town of Dereham, home of traditional English pubs like The Cock, and also home to this independent game store, The Game Cave, which I've been meaning to come to for a long while. And this store had some really good stuff: PlayStation 1, original Xbox, Wii, GameCube, 3DS, 2DS, just a little bit of everything, and some really good old retro stuff. Like you can see here, the Mega Drive games, the Master System games, and some GameCube games, and some really nice merchandise. I am a fan of a lot of this video game merch, and it's cool to see this kind of mixed in with some of these retro games, and the prices weren't too bad either. If I go to a store and it has Wii U games, I'm always looking for Wii U games I don't have. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to find any this time, and it's getting harder and harder to find them. One of the standout features of this store was their incredible original Xbox selection of games. They had some of the best titles for this console, and this is another console which a couple of years ago was super cheap to collect for, but it is getting harder to find and more expensive. Not very often I say this, but this is a PlayStation 1 game I've never seen before, Hot Shot. I kind of thought and presumed it was a light gun game, but I did a little bit of research and it turns out it is not. But let me know, is this a PS1 game that's worth picking up? Here we go then, on to our first charity shop of the day, and straight away we are greeted with the wall of DVDs, but hiding down in the corner here was some PlayStation 2 games. Sadly, spoiler alert, they are all football games and FIFAs and just general games that are not worth either picking up for the collection or flipping into CX, which is a real shame. I was quite interested in this box, 2,100 Xbox points, but I'm sure they've been redeemed. On to another charity shop, and for all you shop owners out there, this is not how you display DVDs. This is just a nightmare. How am I going to go through these DVDs and look at the ones in the back when they are too deep? I know space is of a premium in some of these stores, but this is just not very good business practice in my eyes. This is how you should sell games. I can clearly see what's in here. I can just pick through them and see what I want to pick up. And like, these were well priced as well. A lot of these were quite common titles. Most of these don't trade into too much in CX, but see if you can spot while you're watching which one of these games I picked up, which I will be flipping into CX. It's coming up now. It's of course our old favourite, Call of Duty Black Ops. For £1, trading this into CX is a little bit of a no-brainer. The case is a little bit rough, but that can always be replaced. So there we have it, our first pickup of the day to trade into CX later. Same store, they did have this Wii console under the counter, but it was very overpriced at £35. If it had a Mario game or even Wii Sports, I might have thought about it. Quick find here, I don't think I've ever seen one of these charging docks in a charity shop before. There was some DS games in the background, sadly they were all filler titles. Quick piece of advice here, a lot of these shops market themselves as furniture shops. This one does say and more, and by more they meant video games. There was a lot of Wii games, a couple of PlayStation 2, original Xbox, Xbox 360, even some PlayStation 4. Nothing really to write home about. I was quite tempted to pick up Fight Night Round 4, as these are super easy to pick up achievements in, but I did leave it behind. But it was good to see some video games somewhere you would not expect to see them, and I also didn't expect to see this Wii console. Let me know in the comments, would you have picked this Wii console up for £30? Nowadays, probably not for me. Next up on our road trip is the market town of Swaffham, or as it's pronounced around here, Swaffham. And it's a bit weird, but the town is actually infested with ducks. These things are literally everywhere, just running across the streets and just generally causing confusion, getting in the way of traffic and just blocking the pavements. But in the charity shops, I did see all of these Simpsons DVD box sets, and I've been very tempted to pick these up multiple times, crossing back across the street through the swaths of ducks, which literally just seem to run this town. In the next charity shop across the road, they did have quite a nice way of displaying their DVDs, Blu-rays, and a couple of games. Nothing really worth adding to the collection or flipping here. I was quite intrigued by this PC copy of Ghost Recon, but I do normally stray away from picking up a lot of PC games unless there's something a little bit special. Like, I was quite tempted to pick up this Complete Bible Studies just because it's weird and at Virtual Pool Hall, just because I like the kind of old CD-based PC games, but I did pass them up this time. CDs are definitely getting more and more worth flipping at the moment, especially if you know what you're looking for. I just wanted to pick up this Alexis on Fire CD because I'm a fan of the band, and if I can pick it up cheap, it's easier than going on eBay or Amazon or anywhere like that. I just think CDs are having a bit of a resurgence at the minute, just because they're just a cheap way to get music. But I'm never going to pick up Nickelback. Digging through a little bit more, I did manage to pick up another Alexis on Fire CD, and at the end of the day, if I can pick both these CDs up for £1, that's a really good bargain. The store also had a pretty good selection of DVD box sets, which were all conveniently put into one place. I did scan through a couple of these onto the CX app, but sadly none of these were worth flipping, which I'm surprised about. I thought the Indiana Jones box set would go for a few more pounds. That, as well as the Arrested Development one, don't really trade into CX. It just goes to show you really need to check with your DVDs. They are few and far between the ones worth trading in. Back on the road, getting out of Swaffham, just waiting for the ducks to cross the road, we headed to Kings Lynn finally. The first place we stopped was the Entertainer, and they had some really good deals on some of these Star Wars figures, but unfortunately it was just very select figures that had gone down to like $4.75 or even $7.20, but these are the ones I already had in my collection, which was a shame. I do really like these Star Wars credit collection figures though. They're kind of based on concept art for the series, and I think they look super duper cool, but I am trying not to keep collecting many different lines of figures. As I said at the start of the episode, I am on a bit of a budget today, and I cannot believe how many copies of Starlink for the PlayStation 4 they had in here for just £3. It may not be everyone's cup of tea for £3, it's rude not to. The next charity shop was actually one I passed by mistake last time when I was in Kings Lynn. Straight away I hit to the giant wall of DVDs, very cheap and nothing I really saw that I needed here. One thing that was very cool was this massive selection of World of Warcraft guides. If you've been watching for a while, you know I'm a massive fan of these strategy guides, but at the minute I am sorting out my strategy guide storage, so I'm trying not to add to my problems. This was super duper cool. The GTA Vice City soundtrack box set. I said about CDs earlier in this episode, and this is a CD box set I'd love to add to my collection. This charity shop also had one of the biggest selections of video games I have seen in a charity shop for absolutely ages. There was PlayStation 2, 3, even PlayStation 4, and all the games had a blanket price of £3, which, if there's a game that's slightly rarer, is very good, but on some of the cheaper titles, is probably a little bit overpriced. But it was just so good to see such a huge selection of games. Sadly, there was nothing I really needed for collection, which was a real disappointment, but I did scroll through all of these, and if you're ever in the area of Kings Lynn, I would definitely recommend heading into this store, just because they have so many games. Our next stop was another shop that was closed last time we were in Kings Lynn, Once Was New. Last time I glimpsed through the window and I knew this was going to be something special, but nothing prepared me for walking in and seeing the amount of stuff in this store. I've never seen so many absolutely stacked glass display cabinets. There was so much vintage retro awesomeness. Just look at some of these Hellraiser figures. This store was absolutely rammed. One of the first things that jumped out to me was these carded James Bond Jr. figures. These were actually really affordable. It's annoying I couldn't have picked up all of these. Just £10 each, and I was a massive fan of this cartoon back in the day. I was a massive fan of all the Bond films, and this one just stood out to me as being, you know, the junior version and being a cartoon. Love these figures a lot. This store also had loads of premium Pokemon cards, and let me know in the comments down below, have you ever seen this many Charizard cards in one place? It took me ages to find one Charizard. This shop had caught them all. Also had a really big selection of graded cards. I'm not really a big enough expert in Pokemon cards to say whether grading is a good or bad thing, but I think it could probably be a good way to save for the future. They also had an amazing selection of video games. Here you can see loads of decent PlayStation 1 titles, copy of Tekken 3 there, unfortunately it was the Platinum version, I still cannot find a decent black label copy, and also these Guitar Hero figures which I just don't see very often, some Mega Drive and Atari games. But without a doubt, it was the boxed SNES games that blew me away in this store. I don't think I've ever seen this many fantastic conditioned SNES games boxed ever. There was so many here. I would have happily grabbed any of these, let alone all of them, but my budget just didn't allow it. But hopefully, next time I go to Kings Lynn, they'll still have some of these games in there. Just let me know in the comments down below. If you had to grab one of these games, which would it be? I did a very quick stopover in the Retro Retreat to check for some Wii U games, but sadly there wasn't anything here that I needed. It is getting so hard now to find Wii U games I need for the collection, so I just recommend grabbing any you need as soon as you can. Now to solve a quick mystery. Last time we came to Kings Lynn, a lot of you asked what this giant Super Mario box was. It was in fact a canvas, which they just put into a cabinet to display, so mystery solved. Just down the road is a charity shop that specialises in retro stuff, but it does normally charge a premium for this. Like these Sims 2 strategy guides were very tempting, but they were quite expensive. I think they were £5 each, which is quite a lot. I was again very, very tempted by these WWF Hasbro figures, but Hulk had seen better days. For £2 it was a very good deal, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to grab one of these vintage figures, I want it in slightly better condition. But this glass cabinet did have some really nice bits, but as I said, this shop does specialise in retro, so the prices are fairly high. We're finishing off in what I said was the best CX I've ever been to, so hopefully this time it wouldn't disappoint. But disappointing out of the bat, I really wanted to buy this copy of Most Wanted for the Wii U, but the cover was reprinted, and I will never buy one of these reprinted covers. I did scan through the rest of the Wii U games. I was again tempted to pick up Angry Birds Star Wars, but I did pass it up this time. Since purchasing a PlayStation 5, I have of course been paying more attention to the PlayStation 5 games whenever I'm in CX, as you can get some real bargains here. Some of these are really overpriced, but some of these games, they definitely kind of price very cheaply. One game I definitely want to pick up soon is the Cowabunga collection. I know this is about recommended retail price here, but it is definitely a game that is high on my list of games to buy for the PlayStation 5. FIFA is not. Just scrolling across, Mortal Kombat's quite cheap. We've got more FIFA. Up here is a game I've definitely held out to get on the PlayStation 5, and that is the Evil Dead game. I've heard mixed things about this game, but if I'm going to play it, I'm going to play it on the best console going. Same for this game, Control. I've been wanting to play the add-ons for this game for a while, so I'm definitely going to pick up this Ultimate Edition on the PlayStation 5 at some point. But let me know, what PlayStation 5 games have you picked up recently? Again, Watch Dogs Legion is another game I want to get on the best system. Next up, going through the GameCube titles, and while there were some really good titles here, especially Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, that was in really good condition. You do not see that one very often. I already have that in the collection. That was true of most of the games here. Really good games for the GameCube, but sadly I already had all of these in my collection. Moving on to the Xbox 360, and somewhat of a weird pricing for me. So, the Grand Theft Auto, the complete story with the Ballad of Gay Tony and the Lost of the Damned is £18, which I think is a little bit high, but hear me out. I'll explain why I think this is a little bit expensive. Yes, you do get all three stories on the one disc, but alternatively, you could just buy them separately on two separate discs and save a lot more money. And it's not like they're short of copies. Moving over to the glass cabinet, and a couple of things you don't see very often. Game & Watch consoles, they are starting to fetch a very high price now, and as we scroll across, we will see some you do not see very often as well, Game Boy Micros. I really like these, I think they're a really cool console, but the price of these is definitely going up like the original Xbox. Speaking of the price going up, the PlayStation Vita. One of the most expensive consoles to collect for, it seems, at the minute, so when I see cheap games that I don't have in the collection, such as Reality Fighters, yes, I'm going to pick it up, as the price of these Vita games is just going to go up and up and up. So yeah, for that price, I'm definitely going to add this one into the collection. I did my traditional scrolling through the original Xbox games, as I have hundreds of these already. This was a console I really collected for hard over the past few years, but it's always good to see some of the more obscure games. While queuing, I was just looking at the PC games, and I've never seen a dual CD case PC game in CX. This is just 50p, so I dread what this traded in for. I guess they probably gave the person who traded this in a penny. And yeah, I'm really into these kind of retro PC games in a minute. So for 50p, because I've never seen it before, I'm going to pick it up. Also, while queuing, I caught this behind the counter. This complete in box, the Beatles Rock Band, and it sells for just 40 quid. If I'd had more money, and somewhere to put this more importantly, I'd have definitely picked this up, as it's very rare to find this complete in a box. Getting pretty late in the day, but there was still time to hit up one more town, the town of Wisbech, and it was sheer luck that I parked outside this store I've never heard of, Dawn Till Dusk. Sadly, they were just then closing up, but I will definitely be heading back here because this place was absolutely stacked with like retro games, DVDs, cool nerdy bits, and the thing was, the prices in here were really, really low. Just seeing some of these cheap items in this cabinet made me know this is definitely something I want to hit up in the future when I got more time and money. It was coming to the end of the day and there was just a few charity shops left to go through, but closing time was slowly upon us. But one thing today had taught me is that even if you weren't out spending loads of money and picking up every game you see, because you can't do that all the time, but what you can do is learn about new places. I'd found some really good stores today that I never knew existed, and now I've added them to kind of my library of places to hunt for games. So next time I have some money in my game hunting fund, I'll know where to head to. And at the end of the day, that is what is priceless. The knowledge of knowing the best places to hunt and knowing the things to hunt for. Such as this to end. This Disney Infinity used to sell really well into CX, but now they don't take the disc alone. It had been a really good day of game hunting. I added so much knowledge of locations, games and stuff. Now, back to the games room. Here we are then, back in the games room, and isn't it always the way? You try not to spend much money and you see so much awesome stuff. But one of the best things about this is now I know where to look. It was searching out some of these new game shops to find where the best stuff is, and you know I'll be going back in the future. But don't worry, we still picked up a couple of cheapish bits for the collection. Of course, you saw I picked up a copy of Black Ops for the Xbox 360. That's always a really good game to pick up cheap and just flip straight into CX. Speaking of flipping, a lot of people seem to be sleeping on CDs. I think these are making quite a bit of a resurgence, but it is difficult to know what to buy. So I normally look for bands which I kind of know the value of their CDs or are slightly more obscure. So one of the first bands like that is Alexis on Fire. So I picked up these two CDs. I think these were both for £1. They would have sold for a couple of pounds on eBay, but I want to keep this for my personal collection, as if you did not know, I also have a massive CD collection. Yes, I know. This game, Starlink Battle for Atlantis, did not sell very well. It seemed to be the point where the kind of Toys to Life died on its backside. But at the end of the day, would you pay £3 for this? I think that is a good price. And at the end of the day, even if I keep this sealed for the next 30 years, it may even gain some kind of value. But at the end of the day, it looks a bit like kind of Star Fox, and I'm kind of all here for that. Even if I'm not really that much into kind of attaching all these toys to my controller, I think for £3 this is definitely worth picking up. Even if you're looking for like a cheap game or a cheap gift for Christmas, I think £3 is a good deal. But please do let me know in the comments down below, have you seen this game cheap in your area, and would you personally pick it up for £3? It was a real shame visiting that CX this time. They didn't seem to have as much awesome stuff as they did last time. I went as far as saying last time that was the best CX I've ever been to. But it just kind of shows the nature of the beast. CXs are only as good as their last stock intake. But I did still manage to pick up a couple of bits. So firstly, we have Civilization Call to Power. And I've never seen a dual case CD game for the PC in CX. And for 50p, I'm kind of digging these in a minute. I'm definitely going to pick it up. One thing we are seeing less and less of these days is PS Vita games, or the games you do see in CX in a minute are getting more and more expensive. So when I saw this copy of Reality Fighters for just £4, I knew I had to pick it up. I feel like the best time to collect for the PS Vita has probably gone but the longer you wait to jump on collecting for this console, if that's something you want to do, the harder it's going to get. So if you see cheap games for Vita, grab while you can. So there we have it. That was another amazing week of game hunting. And if nothing else, it's just shown me there's some new places I really want to deep dive into. We found some new game stores and they were absolutely stacked with incredible stuff. And it just shows you, just because you haven't been somewhere doesn't mean it isn't amazing. This week alone, I've added 2 new game stores to my kind of circuit of places I'll be visiting all the time. But let me know, where is your favourite local independent game store? As next year, I want to get out and about around the country a lot more, and hopefully I'll be near you. As always, thanks for watching. If you hit the video, like that button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you all soon.